Well, greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Newsman Weekly Podcast. Thanks once again to local country music singer Luke Watson for crafting the show's theme song. And after a big Saturday night of Ohio State football on TV, smoke and drink, you just never know. Hey, here we are, folks. Episode number 15 of the Newsman Weekly Podcast. This show has become just like a bad house guest. It is staying around far too long. But we set a record number of new downloads last week when we had Missy Houghton, the Richland County Dog Warden, on. So it looks like we're going to have to keep going. It looks like I've screwed up in reverse and created yet more work for myself and for you guys. So I'm sorry to hear, but sorry to pass that along.
Oh, this is work? I don't know.
Well,
it's just so much fun.
Well, I mean, being here with Richie, it's definitely, seems like work. But I am joined once again this morning by Zach Heiser, the show's executive producer. Good morning, Zach. How the hell was your weekend?
Morning. My weekend was good. It was like 7 out of 10. Solid.
Yeah.
Mansfield weekend. I did make it downtown to the Buckeye Imagination. They had like a street party with games and stuff. Took the kids down to that. I got slimed.
Did you get slimed?
I did.
By your kids or by your wife?
By Buckeye.
Okay.
Yeah.
They slimed you.
That was.
What color was it?
I think there's still a little bit of green on my neck.
Okay.
But
yeah. I thought something was going on there. I thought maybe you'd begun to mold because of all the rain.
That could be it too.
All right. Also rejoining us today, back from a 1-week double secret probation suspension, is Knox Pages reporter Grant Ritchie. Welcome back, Ritchie. And how did you spend your week in purgatory?
Was thinking about what I could have done better to not been in purgatory.
Here's a thought. Don't think about it doing better. Do better.
Well, I'm here this week, so I must have done something, right?
Yeah, Hayden called in sick, so I had to pick up the phone and say, hey, Richie, hey, can you bail us out? And
we got a good old competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is...
Iron sharpens iron. So.
Yeah. Say that 3 times real quick.
Iron sharp.
I was teasing,
I can't.
Richie. Jesus. Okay, come on, man.
Strike one.
Now, I think you were down in Athens over the weekend. Was it homecoming down there this weekend?
Yes, it was against Akron.
And did you rejoin your former bandmates in the Marching 110 and blow your horn?
Yes.
What did you play again?
My clarinet.
Your clarinet.
I know.
Why did I know? Did I know?
Sounds
we're
lame.
Not talking like tuba or, I don't know, some brass instrument. Dude played it. I didn't even know they had clarinets in the Marching 110.
They do. They still do. Yep.
Oh.
How many?
One less since.
When I was in the band, it was around like 10 to 15. Yeah.
I'll be honest. It's been a long time since I've seen the Marching 110 perform. But when I was a wayward student at Ohio University back in the early 80s, the band was the only reason we went to football games.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the band pregame, watch the band halftime, head uptown, start drinking.
Yeah. Because
the football team was just god-awful. So. But we did beat Akron, I said.
Yes.
That's a good thing. All right, folks, we have got another great show for you today. I know I say that every week, but it's because I believe it, at least until Heiser and Ritchie actively play defense against my ability to do this show in the first place. Joining us in a few minutes will be Reneta Music, the owner, operator, CEO, and chief hanshi at the nonprofit Music Academy of Karate and Empowerment that is now operating in downtown Mansfield. It's a relatively new business here and in a brand new location at 44 West 4th Street. But Reneta is well known for her years of work in karate, fitness, strength training, and a lot more. She will join us shortly, and I know there's been some talk about her perhaps breaking a board or two while she's here, and we might do that over Richie's head. So keep that video rolling, Richie. I want to see that 2x4 snapping. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about local news for a little bit first. I'm pretty sure we stepped back in time Thursday night in Mansfield to 1938 in the radio drama The War of the Worlds. It was narrated by Orson Welles. That show was probably before you guys' time, right? 1938?
Slightly.
Okay, it was 23 years before I was born. So
I was about to say, maybe you were alive back then, but who knows?
Yeah, you say that once more, and we'll interrupt and get Hayden back in here right now. The show was performed and broadcast live. You got to picture this, 8 p.m. on October 30th as a Halloween episode over the CBS radio network. I mean, radio at the time, that's where people used to listen to radio. It became famous for inciting a panic because some members of the country, especially on the East Coast, actually believed that a Martian invasion was taking place. I mean, this became a big news story. Orson Welles had to apologize once this was all over, saying, I had no idea. I think what he wanted to say is, I had no idea people were that stupid, but there you have it. Well, on Thursday night in Mansfield, Facebook took the place of the radio broadcast and had people convinced all kinds.
Wondering where you were going.
Yeah, I was
with
about to say.
Yeah, they had all kinds of tomfoolery. Does anybody use that one?
Tomfoolery.
Richie, when's the last time you
use
used
it.
the word tomfoolery?
No, that's like a 1930s word, tomfoolery.
Well, people were convinced there were all kinds of tomfoolery taking place in Mansfield. I was at rehearsal at the Mansfield Playhouse. I walked out a little after 9 o'clock. I looked at my phone, and holy crap, it was a world gone mad. According to just some of the Facebook posts I read, a local barber shop had been firebombed. More than a dozen helicopters were buzzing over the city. An 8-year-old child had gone missing, and law enforcement officers were wildly searching for her all over town. And an escaped prisoner was on the loose, and cops were flying around the streets chasing him. All of that and a whole lot more.
Some illegals dropped off behind Kroger.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
There was a busload of illegals being dropped off behind Kroger. But, folks, none of that was true.
None of it was true.
None of it was true. But it didn't stop people from sharing post after post after post after post, claiming all of these things and more were going on in Mansfield.
Well, I heard.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, oh, I saw somebody post that they saw this.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You just stop.
Yes, slow down for a
Right.
second.
You don't have to say that on the internet.
No, get off Facebook, read a book,
Yeah.
listen to good
Touch
music.
grass.
Yeah, I mean, play with your kids. Quit going on Facebook and fanning the flame. So, I did exchange text messages with Mansfield Police Chief Jason Bauman Thursday night. He clued me in on what was happening. It was a saturation patrol in an area of the city that statistics showed had been experiencing higher rates of crime. There was one Ohio State Highway Patrol helicopter overhead, and that was to help track down suspects that may have tried to flee. There was one of those, by the way, and they did catch them. There were police officers from Mansfield, Shelby, Ontario, Lexington, and the Richland County Sheriff's Office, but they were simply flooding into a section of the city where guns and violence were becoming too commonplace. One Friday morning, I wrote a story that was headlined, quote, Facebook was wrong. And that blew up on the Richland Source website. As of yesterday afternoon, when I was looking at this, more than 10,000 visitors had read that. And I hope we learned a lesson. I think the whole thing should serve as a reminder. If you want local news, don't invest a lot of time on social media. Go to a trusted local news source, and we're blessed to have a few of them in this city. Richland Source, Ashland Source, Knox Pages, Mansfield News Journal, WMFD, and WMAN. If you want real news, go to people that kind of do this stuff for a living.
It's a good tip for even national stories, too, because we hear about those all the time, and you don't think to go to the local source in that community.
Right.
But that's the first thing you should be Googling.
But yeah, I mean, it just boggled my mind the way something like that can explode. All right, what else is going on? We did answer a reader question last week through open source. Somebody asked why a company was using a parking lot on the east side of Maple Lake Park as a staging area. I drove out, I saw a bunch of stuff there, I took some pictures, and then I made some calls and found out the trucks and other equipment are owned by Global Energy Partners, which has been installing new gas lines around the city since the spring of 2023. The company did get permission from the city under the previous administration to use that parking lot, and when they're all done, they're going to make a donation to city parks sometime around the end of October. I did ask Louis Andres what that donation is going to be. He said that hasn't been worked out yet. It's a donation. We can't tell them what their donation should be. We will get that information when it comes out. We'll see how big a donation it is. We did publish that story Thursday. Cool thing is anyone can ask us questions through the open source, section of the Richland Source website. And we'll have Richie jump on everyone and answer them all. Richie, when's the last time you did an open source story? That's what I thought.
I don't know, probably like a month ago or something.
Okay, well, you need to pick up the pace on that just a little bit, son, if you want to continue on and become a less than Pulitzer Prize winning journalist like myself.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think you have one, do you?
No. Well, I had one and lost it.
Lost it.
Yeah, they took it back.
September 16th was the last one. No, wait.
All right. Are we just checking?
All right.
The city of Mansfield will soon be, speaking of things in the sky, like more of the worlds, the city of Mansfield will soon be the first in Ohio to deploy drones as first responder technology to assist police and fire departments on emergency calls. I went to a Border Control meeting last week, and it was kind of interesting because they described this box on top of the 9-story municipal building. And let's say there was a fire at 40 West 4th Street, where we're located. A dispatcher could put that address in, hit a button, and this box opens up, the drone takes off, and it flies right over top of 40 West 4th Street. Does not need line of sight guidance. It's all based on technology that was developed by a company called, I believe it was Paladin, outside Houston, Texas. It can go anywhere in a 3-square-mile radius. I can't go over Richie's house, unfortunately, down in Mount Vernon, so we can't keep an eye on him. But Heiser, we can put it right over top of your house at any time.
Do it.
So just keep that in
I'll
mind.
shoot it down.
Yep. I mean, I got to tell you, when Keith Ports, the safety services director, first talked about this, the first thing that flashed in my mind was like the bat signal flashing up on top, and this drone comes out. And I mean, I can see how it can be very useful. Let's say in a real-time situation, you did have a house fire, and it's inside the house somewhere. You get a drone right above it real quick, even before the fire trucks get there, and they can tell, because one of the cameras it's got is thermal. So they can tell the firefighters, okay, your fire's on the second floor in the back bedroom, because they see that thermal heat image coming up, so they can direct fire
Via the drone.
Yeah, via the drone.
That's cool.
And the idea is the drone can fly much quicker to that spot than even a fire truck can get there. So say
Sure.
you had a missing
I can
person.
definitely see the use for it. Yeah.
You had a missing child. Maybe and it's lost in the woods somewhere. Maybe it's in Middle Park, which right now is in the middle of nowhere. A drone can get above there with that thermal. It can look for a heat source. It can see that lost child in the woods way before the searcher could. So
We need one of those for the newsroom. When there's a breaking story or something, you just here it goes to the story, take some pictures.
We got new chairs. We got new headsets.
We'll settle for that.
Yeah,
for now.
I think you're pushing it when you talk about a Newsman Weekly podcast drone. I think we need an Air Force. Yeah, that'd be good. All right, what else is going on? Hey, the annual Prairie Peddler Festival began Saturday down in Butler. This was the first weekend. There'll be another weekend coming up, October 5th and 6th. So, Richie, I know you probably didn't get to it this past weekend, but I'm sure you'll be down there because they have 240 vendors selling decor, home goods, bath and body products, teas and spices. Any of this kind of getting you interested yet?
The spices, maybe.
Yeah, spices.
Yeah.
Teas and spices.
Yeah. Well, what about you?
Well, they actually do have 30 food vendors selling barbecue and burgers, among other things. So, yeah.
Okay.
Our boss, managing editor Larry Phillips, the Prairie Peddler Festival is his go-to every year just for the food alone. So if you missed it this past weekend, check it out this weekend coming up, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. We also had Malabar Farm, had their 47th Ohio Heritage Days this past weekend on Saturday. I believe Sunday as well. The annual event offered visitors a glimpse into early American life with traditional crafts, reenactments, and demonstrations. If you haven't been to one of these, Richie, you need to get down there.
Those are awesome. I was bummed I didn't get to make it out this weekend.
Have you taken your girls down to one of those?
Yeah, it's fun just to walk around and
Scariest moment I ever had at one of those. I was there taking pictures, and they have these big draft horses pulling wagons, and people go for a ride behind the draft horses. And at the pond down below the big house, this draft horse team and the woman who was driving it was backing up toward where people would get out. And somehow it backed up the way I back up, which is sometimes very badly. Next thing you know, these horses are getting spooked. This wagon is headed, and there's nobody on the wagon at this point, thank goodness they've all gotten off. The wagon is headed back rapidly down toward the pond. The woman jumps off, and the horses finally say, this doesn't seem right, let's just stop. So crisis averted, but Everybody could have got wet that day.
Yeah.
So, it's always fun when you have live animals involved in things.
Yeah, they have those horses in Athens during the police were riding them during.
Yeah, I remember some of those nights.
There's always people going up to them and like wanting to pet them, but yeah, you're not allowed to.
Yeah, I remember Halloween in Athens when the bars finally closed. I believe it was at 2:30, and you still had 10,000 people on Court Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the Athens County Sheriff's mounted patrol.
Yeah.
The horses would stand nose to tail, and they walk sideways, and they just come up the street, and you will move.
The horses walk sideways?
Yes, they have these things trained.
Oh, I didn't know they could do that.
Oh, they will clear. I also saw it in New Orleans when I was down there in the Navy Reserve. They will clear a street.
Wow.
Because I saw them clear Bourbon Street the same way. They step sideways, and if there's a horse stepping sideways at you, you will fall back. Because that horse is not going to stop. And
Even after 20 beers.
brother, even after 20 beers, if you have a 2-ton horse moving your way, maybe not 2-ton, that might be an exaggeration, but a big horse,
Yeah.
you're gonna move. But hey, finally, Mansfield City Council meets tonight or tomorrow night. Sorry, no, it is tonight. Taping this on Monday,
Tuesday night.
They meet tonight. On
Every
the agenda
Tuesday.
is Mayor Jody Perry's ideas on how to spend the remaining portion of the city's American Rescue Plan Act funds. And I'll have a full report coming later tonight at Richland Source, so stay tuned for that. Anything else, guys? Anything else from you, Richie?
No, I think maybe we should all just go to like the haunted prison sometime, and you know what? It's still open.
I've been trying to get you young people to go out there and do the TikTok, but nobody will
I'll
take
go.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I
I'd
think
like to
you
go.
need to talk to the other TikTok generation
All right.
folks.
Yeah.
Good plug for next week. Vic's
Yeah,
coming on
exactly.
next week.
Yep. Next week we will have Blood Prison owner Vic Amesquita will be our guest next week, so stay tuned for that. But that's enough news for now. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Reneta Music, founder, owner, executive director, and chief hanshi at the nonprofit Music Academy of Karate and Empowerment in downtown Mansfield. Stay with us. And welcome back to the Newsman Weekly Podcast. Joining us now is a guest I can honestly say could easily kick the butt of anyone in this room. So you guys better be on your best behavior, all right? Join me in welcoming Reneta Music, Chief Hanshi, founder, executive director, and lots of other titles at the Music Academy of Karate and Empowerment now in downtown Mansfield. Good morning, Reneta.
Good morning.
All right, let's go back a little bit. How did you happen to become involved in karate and fitness, and where did that desire come from in your life?
Back in the early 90s, probably 1991, I went to a karate class in Willard that my brother was at. And I threw a roundhouse kick on a bag just from watching. And my brother said, well, girls can't do karate. And I had to prove him wrong. And my daddy told me that I can do anything I want to do. Girls can do anything they want to do, and they can do them better than a man.
So you spent your entire career proving your brother wrong.
I have.
And when did he look at you and say, boy, I guess I was really wrong, huh?
Just this morning we talked about it.
How much older is he than you?
He is not.
Okay.
I am 2 years, 10 months, and 17 days older than him.
Oh, so he told his older sister,
Yes.
Girls can't do karate.
Yes.
It's a wonder you didn't kill him on the spot.
Yes.
My sister
I tried a few times, actually.
Yeah, well, my sister was 5 years older than me, and she beat the crap out of me more times than I can remember. And my parents allowed it right up until the point I grew up enough that I could actually win. And my father said, you can't hit girls. So I'm like, she's been kicking my butt.
Right.
You know, and all of a sudden I do, okay. Yeah.
All right.
No, but I think I met you back maybe 2020, a little bit before then. You were a very busy instructor at the Mansfield YMCA during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. You had kettlebell classes, karate classes, nutrition classes, self-defense classes, personal training sessions. You were teaching school gym classes, I think, mornings, afternoons, evenings, in person, online. And I came away when I was working on that story kind of amazed at the energy level. As you look back at that time, and even today, how did you handle all of that?
That's a really good question. A lot of times it was fight or flight. Just keep going and keep going. And it prepared me for what I do today. Just constantly going. although I'm a little older now and I slow down in the evenings a little bit sooner, but not much.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older and I slow down by 9 a.m. So, whoops, we're already late. But I know that you love teaching children. You've taught children in various karate classes in various locations. You've taught gym classes. I believe it was at Discovery School primarily.
3 years at Discovery.
Where does kind of that desire to work with children come from?
Well, the cliche is children are our future, and I don't think of it as a cliche. It's actually real. So to empower kids with perseverance, integrity, indomitable spirit, courtesy, and self-control, it gives them, a leg up on other kids that don't have those. So it creates a humble adult to have all those virtues. We call them martial arts virtues, or good qualities that teachers don't have time to teach, parents can't teach. A lot of times that outside authority makes a big difference for kids.
Now, I know I'm involved with the Mansfield Playhouse with a lot of shows. I've seen a lot of kids shows. I've been in some shows that have kids. People that can teach children in large groups, you have the patience of Job. I mean, what's the difference between teaching a bunch of old guys like me in a kettlebell class versus teaching children kind of the basics of karate?
Not much.
So wait, you're trying to say there's really no difference between me and an 8-year-old?
Not much.
Well, that's probably my wife would certainly agree with that. I know you are, but I mean, how do you do that with children in terms of? I mean, I compare it to herding cats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But talk about kind of how you set the groundwork for teaching children and making sure that they're teachable.
Kids want structure, and I don't punish kids. Like, I've heard of other schools and other karate places where they'll make kids do like, oh, you didn't do that right, do your push-ups. Well, that doesn't set kids up to succeed. It sets them up for failure. So when I teach kids, I set them up to succeed, laying the expectations down for the kids. This is what I expect. I expect you to stand still. I expect you to be quiet. I expect you to listen. And it's amazing how it bleeds over into school. You know, when we have a karate test, back when I was at the Y, I had a roster of 60 kids between the Mansfield Y and the Shelby Y. And we would have a test with 30 to 40 kids at a time in the gymnasium. And it was amazing how those kids would just stand still. When it's time for belt promotion and I'm giving them a belt, you got to stand still for a long time. It could take 15, 20 minutes to give each kid their promotion. And every once in a while, I just had to look back and I'd say, stand still. It's almost over. Be patient. And they did.
And hence the reason I'm still wearing the belt that I earned when I was 12 years old, because I could not stand still for more than a second in order to qualify for something else. I know another big thing with you and with your husband over the years has been teaching self-defense classes. Why is that important to you, and what do you think is the biggest lesson that you teach when you teach a self-defense class?
It's important to me that every woman should be empowered to feel protected in their own skin and their own environment. And it's not necessarily the contact self-protection. It's teaching women how to be really aware of their surroundings. And that's something that I've done over the years. When I teach, a seminar, I'll pretend that we go on a trip to the grocery store. Where do you put your purse in a grocery cart? I can't tell you that secret.
Okay.
You have to come to one of my self-defense classes.
Thank you. That's, it's always good to have a guest on the podcast who, when I ask the question, basically says, "I can't tell you." That's, that's podcasting 101.
But just making them comfortable in their environment, and then the hands-on stuff, teaching them that there is a beast that lives within them, and that if somebody puts their hands on them and they don't want them to, that they need to unleash that beast. I read a book quite a few years ago, probably 13, 14 years ago now, by a lady named Lori Hartman Gervasi, called Fight Like a Girl and Win. And she actually had about the same credentials I had in karate, an Okinawan Japanese background. And I just fell in love with that book. So the seminars and workshops that I teach are based upon that book. Everybody that takes my workshops walks away with a spiral-bound notebook where they can take notes, and we go over everything. So it's more the empowerment of knowing that the way I walk and the way I present myself keeps me safe.
Now, I know in your kettlebell classes, I'm going to offer this we're going to talk about your husband, Gary, who's kind of an OG when it comes to karate instructors. But when I used to take the kettlebell classes with you at the Y, I panicked every time I saw that Gary was going to be the one leading them. Because I think you have some degree of mercy in your soul. I don't think Gary does. I mean, with you, we'd roll the dice once in a while, and maybe it would be an easier thing. And then Gary, he'd get up there and say, no, we're doing these 4 things, and don't roll dice. We're just going to do these 4. Shut up. Here we go. So in terms of Gary, the OG of karate instructors, how did the two of you meet, and how was that kind of personal relationship developed into such a good business relationship?
That's an old question, actually. His instructor, or his student, was my instructor. I got my first degree black belt from Tiger Paw Karate. I started in 1991, and I got my first degree black belt in 1994. And my instructor took me to Gary's house one time to a party. And I walked down the stairs, and this man, Gary, opened the door, and my heart started fluttering from that moment, and I had a crush on him from that moment on. Fast forward to 2010. Yeah, 2010. Gary came to the Y and brought kettlebells, and I started training with him again. And we hit it off. He's promoted me. He taught me all I know about strength training. And he got me certified through a global strength organization called Strong First, whom I'm a teacher of strength team leader in, which means I've met all the requirements for kettlebell, barbell, and body weight. And I'm now licensed to teach workshops. I can go anywhere in the country, actually anywhere in the world, and teach workshops. And Gary was very gracious to me teaching me karate because I had a lot of old habits that I had learned, and I had to let those go. He was very kind.
Unless he's leading the kettlebell class, and then as we've established, he's just merciless.
Oh, my level 1 kettlebell certification preparation was not kind. He trained me like a fighter. I can't believe some of the things that I did, but I did them, and my level 1 kettlebell cert was a cakewalk, and for most people, they were dog dead tired.
I mean, I am certified in body weight in that I've got to get up this body full of weight and move it from place to place, so I am certified in that. Now, you made the kind of courageous decision to leave the Y. You opened a new business kind of at the family compound up in Shelby. And what was your plan at that point?
Wow, that's a neat question. So the last Monday in September, or of August of 2023, I found out I had breast cancer. And I left the Y on that Friday. It wasn't because of the breast cancer. It was other circumstances. And I opened up my yard to karate kids. And I'm like, hey, if you want to come and you want to start training, here it is. And I had about 25 to 30 students show up. Very emotional. And I promised them that we would only be at the house for a year. My daughter's boyfriend redid our basement. We went into the basement the beginning of October, And it wasn't even a year, I signed a lease, and we moved in. It'll be a month ago this coming Wednesday. We had moved into the former Buckeye Children's Museum.
See, now you're jumping ahead. I hadn't got
Oh,
to
I'm
that.
sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry. I'm sorry.
You're excused, but let me just back up for a second. Some of the biggest stressors in life, I'm told, are things like new jobs, personal illness, moving, and you kind of like did all three of those things in a week.
I did.
Talk about how much did, physical karate training help you survive the mental stress of all of those things happening at once?
Resiliency. Karate and strength training create resiliency. And I don't know anything except to be unstoppable, to have an incredibly strong spirit, to just go, to not stop and not let anything get in my way. And if something does get in my way, then I find a way around it.
Now, you made the decision to open a storefront operation. I think you mentioned a couple minutes ago. You moved into the large space formerly occupied by the little Buckeye Children's Museum, and you became our neighbor, right next door to Richland Source. What went into that decision-making? How big a leap of faith was that to make, and what are kind of your plans for the future?
The decision to be in the North End was to keep things central. I'm also a nonprofit, so my two things that I have found in my business on, transparency and never turning a child away. So no funding. Funding will never be a problem for a kid. If you, whatever a parent can afford, I will find a way to fund their karate training. What was the other question?
As you thought about it, and right the moment you're about to sign a lease, there's got to be a moment in your head that says,
No, I didn't have one of those moments.
Okay. I have one of those in the morning when I make the decision when I'm going to put my feet on the floor, so I'm always curious.
There was no hesitation. I have a strong tribe of support behind me. I have a very strong board, and I also believe that I have children in this community waiting to learn karate from me.
So what are the plans for the future? Let's look forward 5 years from now. What would you like to see happening in your center?
Well, to start short term, I'd like to double my enrollment before the end of the year.
What is your enrollment right now?
I have about 30 students.
Okay.
So I'd like to double that before.
Those are children, young people?
Yeah, and adults.
Okay.
I have adults too. So I'd like to double that, and then my full vision is 200 kids.
Okay. And how big is that space? It's obviously a large space, but kind of describe for folks who haven't been into that space recently just how big a place you're talking about.
5,400 square feet on one floor. My goal is to have the whole building. And I will offer kettlebell classes. We're going to hang heavy bags. We'll do some kickboxing type stuff up there. Tournament training. My husband and mine's dream is to take kids to AAU tournaments. It's going to take a minute, but it's a dream.
I told my wife once I should probably start karate training, and she said, "Have you seen pictures of Fat Elvis doing karate training?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Don't." So, I said, "Oh, that's okay." Now, you got a big ribbon cutting coming up. I think it's on Friday.
It is on Friday at 4 o'clock.
Tell us about what that's going to involve and what you have planned for Friday.
So the ribbon cutting is Friday at 4, and then up until 6 o'clock, I'm doing an open house. I'll have some food. I'll do a few giveaways, so I'm inviting everybody to come down and enjoy that. Also, on Saturday the 5th from 11 until 1:30 is our belt promotion. So if you want to see the kids, you want to see the behavior of the school with the kids, come down and check it out. It's pretty neat to watch these kids. These kids put themselves in a vulnerable position, but it's a safe position because they have to perform by themselves in front of everybody. We've performed at the Ontario Children's Festival. We were downtown, and these kids get up and practice their kata just like they do in class. It's really remarkable to watch kids allow themselves to be vulnerable, but it's because they know they're safe.
It's interesting because I think I see a correlation, or at least a connection, between kids who might be your karate students and the young people I see at the Mansfield Playhouse. It's that they overcome the fear of being in front of people.
Yeah.
They feel safe because they're with other kids that think the same way they do. And it's different. I mean, when I grew up, it was football, it was basketball, it was baseball, and that's who we hung out with. And I don't know, it seems like some of these are opportunities that maybe young people who don't get involved in traditional kinds of sports, maybe they gravitate toward, whether it be youth community theater or whether it be karate classes.
That's exactly right. Also, I love kids who are neurodivergent. So
I have no idea what that means.
So ADHD, autistic kids, those children have a really hard time fitting into places. And I provide that safe environment that a child feels equal. And they flourish. It's amazing to watch a kid who has neurodivergent issues just flourish in that environment.
Now, we talk about belts. What belt are you on at this point, and do you still have things that you're working toward from a personal standpoint?
So I am an 8th degree black belt.
That sounds scary.
It's terrifying.
If I held a board right here, could you break it over Grant Ritchie's head?
I might be able to.
I would like to see that.
I might be able to.
You know what? Before we get done today, Heiser, give me a 2x4. I don't want a little flat board. I want something heavy.
I'll go find a board.
All right, thank you.
Personally, my biggest goal is to become a better version of myself. And a better version of myself as an instructor. My biggest challenge right now, and I say big, but it's not really big, but it's a challenge to learn how to teach these children individually and as a group, because every child learns differently. And I like to be able to help every child learn to the best of their ability. They sit in a classroom all day long and have to be taught to standards in a classroom. My standards are know your kata, know how to move to achieve the rank.
What is a kata?
A kata actually is a pattern of movements. And in the movements, is where self-protection is. Kata actually means to grease a groove. So what that means is you grease a groove in patterns of movement. You grease a groove in your mind for discipline, to practice. And you grease a groove in knowing that this is the movement that you have to do. It's got a lot of meanings behind it.
For a little word, it certainly seems.
It is loaded. It really is.
All right. Well, it is time for our weekly segment, and we call it On the Record, which if you're going to be the newsman every once in a while, you have to go on the record. So I'm going to ask you some rapid-fire, short answer questions.
Okay.
You only get 5 seconds to give me an answer to each one. If you go over 5 seconds, you're going to hear our official buzzer. It sounds like this.
Uh-oh.
We are a very high-tech show. But it's all your opinion, so there's no wrong answer unless you take too long to answer, and then there'll be something. So are you ready?
I think so.
All right. Best karate movie of all time?
Oh, Best of the Best was really good.
I'm going to give you extra time
thanks.
because it's the first question.
Yeah.
So, all right, go ahead.
I would say the Best of the Best was good, but I will say I like the layers that are involved in Karate Kid. Because I look at it from not just the movie, I look at the layers that are involved
Now,
in
you
the
just
movie.
saw Ralph Macchio as cute. You can say that.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
You
go.
caught me.
Yeah, okay. All right. All right. So you and I both just violated the first tenet of On the Record, which is we took way too long with that one.
Okay.
So, all right, let's do another one.
I'll do better.
All right. Most enjoyable kata command to give while leading a class.
A clap.
Clap? Okay.
Yep.
Do one. There it is. There's a clap. We got it right here. All right. Most misunderstood thing about karate.
That it's about fighting.
All right.
I've never taught a person how to fight.
What is the heaviest kettlebell you've ever dropped on your foot?
Never.
Oh, man. All right. One more. Ready?
Go.
Is Wonder Woman real?
She's sitting right here.
All right. Where can people get more information about your school and all the great things you're doing? I believe it's at 44.
44.
44 West 4th. Where can they get more information about your school, about your building, about all the cool things you're doing?
So you can call me at 419-405-5711. You can also look at musickarate.org. You can email me at Reneta, spelled Reneta, at musickarate.org. Or I have classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening from 5 until 8 o'clock. You can just pop in there. And
there's more.
Yes, you can come to the open house and check out the school and come to the karate test on Saturday. So the open house, once again, and ribbon cutting are from 4 o'clock until 6 o'clock on Friday, October 4th.
October 4th. I almost said 6. I always get ahead of myself.
And then the test, or promotion, I don't say test anymore, I say promotion, is on Saturday, October 5th from 11 until 1:30.
Well, very good. Folks, we're going to have to leave it at that for today. Reneta, thanks very much for being our guest this week, and best of luck, neighbor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've appreciated this.
I'm sure we'll see you down the street or across the way. And next week, our guest will be Vic Amesquita, owner of Blood Prison at the former Ohio State Reformatory, which is now open and scaring people every weekend through October. I'll be back in a second to put a bow on this week's podcast. And until then, please remember what Mark Twain said. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.